Now, I'm going to preface our guest showing up here because Drew Allen wrote a book, and it's For Christ and Country, The Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, and he's talking about modern Frankenstein, the left's transgender experiment on kids. And now we're going into a different kind of an equation, which attorney John Gordon from The John Gordon Show. How are you, sir? Welcome back.
I'm doing great, thank you. Happy New Year.
Same to you. And so the thing is that now the Supreme Court is faced with some suits here. We're talking about Laney Armistead, Madison Kenyon, Mary Kate Marshall. They're basically, and their attorneys are in front of the Supreme Court. Did they have a lot of funding to get there, by the way? Are you aware of whether or not there was a lot of crowdfunding and whatnot to get enough money together to get this thing up to the high court?
I don't know. I know that Riley Gaines is one of the plaintiffs, and she could raise a lot of money on her own right.
Oh, yeah, she sure could.
She's got a good deal with Fox News. I interviewed Riley about three years ago, and we had a wonderful conversation. I'm actually going to be with her later today. She's coming to our Palm Beach Republican Party Club, and will be on which I serve as an officer. And she will be presenting to us tonight. So it's a very timely conversation. I wanted to interview her for the truth, and her people are pushing back, saying that her Fox News contract won't allow her to do video. So maybe we'll do an audio only version. But anyway, I digress. This is bizarro to me that we're even sitting here having this conversation. I think the Supreme Court is going to be really hamstrung because the founders had no concept of transgender, nor ever contemplated that men who transitioned to become women would be competing in women's sports. It just defies all common sense. I don't see how the Supreme Court could possibly rule that a man could play a woman in women's sports. It's just ludicrous.
But John, I mean, Ketanji Brown Jackson, when they asked her the definition of a woman, couldn't even tell them what that was.
Well, couldn't or wouldn't.
I know.
I lean towards the latter, frankly.
Yeah. I had to throw that out.
I can help her out. I can define it very easily.
Yeah, I know. You just got to look at the parts, because parts is parts. I mean, that's just the way it is, folks. I mean, come on.
That's exactly right.
It doesn't take much to figure that out. When you see a bulge down there, it's like, what are they doing on a women's volleyball team or a women's basketball team or wrestling females? I mean, come on.
But that's really only a matter of identification, frankly. You can change that component of a person's body, but you don't change the rest of it. I mean, the muscle mass is still that of a male, and the just the overall strength and the joints and the ligaments, all of those things that combine to create strength are not going to be dramatically changed. And so it's just manifestly unfair. It's a matter of common sense. And I'm sorry if someone makes a decision to chemically alter their body. I think that's on them. I don't think the people that they're going to compete with in sports should have to pay a price for that.
Yeah, I understand that. And the thing is, too, I mean, you go the other way and you look at all these detransitioners out there, these women who thought that they were men, and they go out like Ellen Page, change her name to Elliot Page, get her breasts lopped off like Chloe Cole and a whole bunch of other people. I mean, and I haven't heard about Ellen Page having an addictomy, so I don't know. That's what I call it.
That's a term I'm not familiar with.
Well, now that you got one for your vocabulary.
Explanation, frankly.
Yeah, it doesn't really require it. But the thing is, people listening to this is right over their head. But the thing is, I mean, they're not having male parts put on, but they're having their breasts lopped off, which makes no sense unless they know they got cancer. And I know that Ms. McEnany, the press secretary for the president, she had a double mastectomy because there was a reason for it. She had cancer. And she's a beautiful woman, and she's smart. She's an attorney like yourself. By the way, folks, if you haven't listened to John Gordon, he's got a show called The Truth with John Gordon. He's a graduate of Mercer University Law School in Georgia, and a business owner and entrepreneur working as a journalist and reporter in Macon, Georgia, and Hotlanta. So how is WSB these days? You ever dial into them?
I used to watch WSB pretty religiously. I've had a look behind the curtain into the Cox organization by virtue of a 30-page article that appeared in Vanity Fair a few months ago, where one of the members of the Cox family decided to leave effectively the business. They paid him a huge amount of money to do so. And once he got his freedom from that organization, he sat for an interview and he disclosed that the Cox organization has contracts with the Defense Department, now the Department of War. So you have to kind of ask yourself, why does a media/car company have contracts with the then Department of Defense, unless there's some other reason? And that may explain why the Atlanta Journal-Constitution does not intellectually, in an intellectually honest manner, talk about the 2020 election and why they still maintain that Oswald was the lone assassin on November 22nd in 1963 in Dallas, Texas. So I'm sorry, I always had my concerns, but with that revelation and putting two together, it's pretty obvious what's going on.
No doubt. So this
sickens me.
I understand. I understand completely. They're woke, mainstream media like everybody else.
Well, these people masquerade as if they have the moral high ground. Oh, you could never bribe me. Well, I guess you couldn't bribe you unless we found out what your price was. And then, journalistic integrity. It's just so hypocritical. And
very similar to prostitution, John. Once we've determined what you are, everything else is negotiable, right?
It's just flat out dishonest.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't know how they rationalize it.
All right,
but they're certainly not alone. Politico collected $10 million from the federal government because people in the bureaucracy paid $75,000 and $100,000 for subscriptions to Politico. Hell, they could have borrowed mine. I'd have made them a deal. I'd have sold it to them at that price. And then Matt Taibbi figured out that the FBI paid the former Twitter $3.5 million to censor people if they spoke out in contradiction to the company line on the COVID crisis and the vaccine in particular. So I think we now are starting to get a pretty clear picture of why the American people have been delusional and because they've been severely misinformed by people they once believed in. Now their readership and viewership are leaving in droves, and I celebrate that.
And Moderna
reign.
Yeah, Moderna just came out with their figures too, and their figures are dropping. They have been ever since people found out what these vaccines are all about. And the fact they weren't vaccines at all, but they were genetic gene therapy experiments on people. And now their immune systems are trashed. Their T cells are probably going bye-bye. They've done all this reverse transcriptase, as Dr. Judy Mikovits and I sat down one long day over lunch and had a chat about. All of these things that I see going on is the reason that Moderna is, I hope that company goes bankrupt at some point, but you never know. Pfizer's making all sorts of drugs. And every time I turn on the TV, John, I see big pharma every single time. And now the big thing is weight loss, because they know damn well everybody's got a weight problem. And so RFK Jr., what does he do? He turns the pyramid upside down. And now everybody's got to eat your vegetables. I'm sure the kids will love that.
Well, I'm just wondering what the side effects are of the weight loss drugs that we have no concept of. And that's the shoe I'm waiting to hear drop. And I'm not looking forward to it. I hope that I'm wrong. But it feels like this was like the vaccine rushed to the market, and people are so enthralled with the idea of looking slender and sexy again that they're eating it like candy. And I just feel like my instinct's telling me there's going to be a price to be paid for that. But I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because many of my friends are just looking dandy these days.
So you think that Riley Gaines tonight, when you go to the meeting, since you're one of the officials down there, is going to talk all about this Supreme Court case? Is that pretty much.
Oh, I have no doubt, and the oral arguments are happening today, and how they come down on this will be very interesting. I just don't think that. Well, you look at the court; it's conservative. I think the chances are very good they're going to affirm the Violence Against Women's Act and the Fairness in Women's Sports laws, which certainly give them plenty to hang their hat on. And I'm sympathetic towards people that want to transition from one sex to the other because I have empathy for anyone who suffers from an illness. And I think in their case, it's probably mental illness. And I'm not trying to be harsh or mean. I'm just telling it like I see it. I don't know. And I'm sure, that there are legitimate cases where maybe I do subscribe to this theory that sexuality is on a continuum. I mean, we all know macho men, all the hell. And there are very feminine women. And we do see iterations in between. And there may well be medical cases where someone is trapped in the body of someone that they don't relate to. In other words, a man thinking they're more feminine or a woman thinking they're more masculine. I'm sorry. I truly am sorry. But the rest of us are not able to accommodate your condition. I would call it an affliction, but I really don't want to be mean and disparaging to people that are in that category. But, we just cannot accommodate every condition that exists in humanity. We will bend over backwards to accommodate and have great empathy, but we just cannot change societal norms to help you feel better. There's got to be limits. And so that's sort of the way I look at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is now you have Idaho and West Virginia involved in this litigation. And, basically they prohibit transgender athletes who identify as women from playing on teams that match their gender identity discrimination based on sex. And so, when I look at stuff like this and I say, okay, you already mentioned the two different acts that they're going to weigh against what the claims are. Little versus Hecox in West Virginia versus BPJ. And they have to do that because BPJ is a minor, so they can't list the name. We understand that. But, the repercussions, I mean, if they were to advance this and rule in favor of saying no guys in women's sports.
It would be the end of women's sports. It will be the end of women's sports. Why do you say in that? Their right mind? Like Riley Gaines is a perfect example. She spent her entire life training to become an Olympic swimmer, and her hopes were dashed because she was in a
swim meet,
amateur swim meet, but at a very high level that I believe was a stepping stone and a qualifier to being able to be on the U.S. women's Olympic swimming team, and she was beat by a dude.
Yeah, Leah Thomas, supposedly.
Now, help me understand why that is not a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I mean, there is no due process or equality in that. And so, again, I just think that common sense has to play a role in this discussion.
Well, it would. I mean, the favorable thing would be is to rule that men cannot participate. If you are not a woman, you can't play in women's sports. It's not discriminatory. And if you think that you're transgender, I'm sorry, they don't have a transgender league. But if you think that just think about this for a minute.
Start one.
Yeah, start
a transgender league.
Yeah, and then you guys can beat each other up, whatever.
But and then let's see what the market will support. How many people do you think would come to a transgender
Heck, I don't know, man.
event.
I mean, if you tell the guys it's going to be like the women's lingerie league, I mean, to hell, they might all come out in lingerie. Just so
there might be an opportunity there.
Go to Austin, Texas on Halloween night. You'll see what I'm talking about. John Gordon, thank you so much for being with us here on the Krieger Files. God bless you for the work you're doing.
My car with a broomstick on my way out.
Let's hope not. All right. Yeah, we're going to be back after the break talking about common law trusts. Stay right there. You're going to love this.